In 2013, I moved to Providence, Rhode Island for my new job. It was just me and my 4-year-old daughter living in a quaint and spacious townhome. Since we were relatively new to the area, we didn't know many people, but did become familiar with the kind older gentleman who lived next door in the townhouse that connected to ours. His name was Ben. Our street was lined with beautiful floral trees and it was quite nice, but Providence is weird in that the conditions of the houses and little neighborhoods can vary drastically, street by street. We were near a few rough neighborhoods, but I felt relatively safe in my new home. I remember one night I saw a Facebook post with a safety tip to put your car keys next to your bedside so if anything happens, you can press your car alarm button and scare an intruder off. I've never been overly concerned about my safety and rarely took advantage of any tips I saw on Facebook, so I'm not sure why I suddenly decided to heed this advice, but I started keeping my car key fob on my bedside table. A few nights later, I was reading a book in bed with my light on in my second floor bedroom, hours after putting my daughter to sleep, when I heard a loud sound outside. I peered out the window to take a look and saw nothing. I got back in bed, turned off the lights, and went to sleep. It was maybe half an hour later when I suddenly woke up to what almost felt like an earthquake. The room shook, and I heard a loud thud. Half awake, I gasped and sat up, wondering, if it was my imagination or if I had actually felt something. Immediately, I ran to my daughter's room, thinking she'd fallen off her bed or injured herself. As I swung her door wide open, there she was, sleeping soundly and sweetly. I was so confused. I heard another loud bang and had an eerie feeling that something was wrong, but I couldn't figure out what. I grabbed my car key fob, took it downstairs as I nervously inspected the first floor. I swore to myself that if I heard one more sound, I would press the alarm, just in case. But I didn't. It was silence after that. I returned to bed, and although it took a while for me to fall back to sleep, I eventually drifted off. The next day went on like any other day until I noticed a friend of mine had repeatedly called me in the afternoon. After I picked up my daughter from preschool, called my friend back. "Did you hear?" he said. "No. What?" I answered. "News outlets were mobbing your street about an hour ago, and the news trucks were even in your driveway." I sat silent, confused. 3 men broke into your neighbor's place last night, tied him up at gunpoint, stole thousands of dollars worth of items, and took off with his car. I immediately fell to my knees and began sobbing. I had heard it all happen. I almost pressed the button. I almost did, but I didn't. I sobbed, feeling completely unsafe. I asked a friend to come stay with us for the night, and it wasn't until the next day that I got the chance to speak to Ben. Ben explained the whole story and told me the cops wanted to talk to me so I could share what I heard. He said the men smashed the window in his basement and entered through there, which is what I heard before going to bed. The timeline suggested that they saw my light and me peering out the window and waited 30 minutes or so they could enter the premises. They didn't realize Ben was home, and it was suggested that they cased his place beforehand. He'd been asleep when one of them started rummaging through his stuff upstairs in his bedroom, which was directly on the other side of my closet through a shared wall. The sounds and the shakes I heard and felt were apparently the intruder knocking Ben down to the ground after realizing he was there. The intruder cupped a hand over his mouth and told him if he made another sound, he would kill him. This is why I heard nothing more. After they tied him up and left, Ben remained tied up for over 12 hours, till he eventually broke free and called the police. I cried again and apologized profusely to Ben, explaining what I had heard. He simply said that as he was tied up, he kept thinking that he was glad it didn't happen to me and my little girl. I really don't know what I would have done if my daughter and I had to experience that level of trauma firsthand. Ben seemed to be okay, considering it all, but it took me so long to feel safe again and for my guilt to subside. They never caught the intruders, and I ended up ordering a taser, which was illegal, and some mace. For the first time in my life, I even considered getting a gun, but I decided against it. Fortunately, I've never experienced anything close to that again. I'm glad Ben was ultimately okay, but if something like this ever happens again, I'll listen to my instinct. It's better to be safe than sorry.